Okay, energy up. We're gonna talk about whether or not you should switch from the Samsung Galaxy S21 to the Samsung Galaxy S23 today. Most verses you'll see, they'll be last year's versus this year. But what if you're someone like me who actually owns a Samsung Galaxy S21 and is seeing some diminished battery life? I might just be ready to make the jump. So S21 versus S23. Do I stay or do I go? Let's talk about it. Ever since we first got our hands on the Samsung Galaxy S23 at launch, I've been thinking about it. Okay, let's not make this weird or anything. I was able to put those romantic thoughts away and I've checked out some other really cool hardware over the last couple of months. The Honor Magic 5 Pro. Feel free to check out any of our other hands-on videos over the recent launches that have come out. But every time I run short on battery or have to delete some apps, I'm taken back to the S23. Or the mini-me to Dr. Evil, as Ryan Haynes put it in his written review. Make sure you check out our full S23 review online after this as well. A lot can happen over 2 years, and at this point, myself and many others like me have definitely charged our phones to 100% more often than we probably should have. I've seen my daily battery reduced to 25% roughly by the end of an average day, where I used to have around 40% left at the end of my day. But just how outdated are we talking? Is the Galaxy S21 really falling so far behind? Well, to keep this versus battle fair, in the case of a draw in each category, the winner will go to the phone that you've likely already got in your pocket, or the cheaper of the two, the S21. With that said, let's fight. Starting from the two most noticeable differences, the body of the phone and the camera array. It's the design. If you're someone who's looking at the design of a phone and cares what all the looks are about, then switching might be the right case for you. Well, call me crazy, and I know I'm probably an outlier here because this is apparently a hot take, but one of the things that I enjoyed the most about the S21 was that the back was actually made of plastic. But if you're somebody looking for a mature, minimalist design, it doesn't get much sexier than the S23. Its Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the front and back, plus the Armor aluminum frame, make for a much more premium and more durable finish, or so they say. The design around the camera array is also a really nice update here, and they finally did away with the boxy metal cutout for the rear camera of the S23. Instead, Samsung simplified things with a flat glass back, featuring 3 small camera circles, but your phone still doesn't sit flat on a table unless you use a thicker case on it. But if you're looking for a minimalist case that won't interrupt your phone's design, you should definitely check out the sponsor of today's video, PHNX. Whether you choose the S21 or the S23, there are tons of great case options available from some of the most popular phones today. PHNX cases feel like a light skin around your device and will keep it safe from scratches and scuffs while still feeling OEM. Check out PHNX cases at the link below with a great offer that we've got available for you today. When you factor in the price, at launch being the exact same $799 MSRP, the points for design go to the S23. Samsung's frosted glass back, premium Armor aluminum frame, and even down to the feel in the hand, just by making the phone a few millimeters smaller, send this one over the top. So just to recap, it's 1-0 now for the S23, and it's got the S21 on the ropes. But will the S21 display the kind of bounce back that it needs in this versus battle to really keep things going when it comes to the screen? Looking at these two phones, spec by spec, side by side, you'd think that it's gonna be a pretty darn close round. Both feature dynamic AMOLED 2X displays with 120 Hz refresh rate, HDR10+, always on displays. You might even be mistaken to think that the screen size alone should make this a hands-down win for the S21, since it's the larger of the two displays. People, the difference in size here is 0.1 inch difference. For once, size really doesn't matter. But what does matter is the peak brightness. The Galaxy S21 maxes out at just 1300 nits of peak brightness, and that's one of the things that I noticed when I first grabbed the S23, which is that it hits peak nit brightness of 1750 nits. My initial reaction was, wow, this phone is just so bright and vivid. and it literally made my old S21 feel like a dull and tarnished piece of trash in my hands compared to the sparkling S23. Points for display go to the S23 based solely on just how bright and enjoyable the screen was to look at in all circumstances, indoors and outdoors. So the score is now 2-0, with only battery, performance, and cameras left to battle over. So it's going to take a miracle for the S21 to pull out a win here, but could this be an upset? When it comes to battery performance, and it's unfortunately one area that Samsung hasn't done much with to update in the last 3 versions of their flagship phone. Both phones have a max 25 watt super fast charging. Both feature 4.5 watt reverse wireless charging and 15 watts max Qi wireless charging. But the Samsung S21 features a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, while the S23 only has 3,900 milliamp hours of battery. Having played with both the S23 and the S21, the S23 uses its smaller 3,900 milliamp hour battery much more efficiently than the 4,000 milliamp hour cell inside of the S21, which could be thanks to the newer and more efficient processor, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Mind you, the battery in my S21 is older now and depleted compared to when it was new. Brand new, these phones both performed around the same with a full day of normal usage, leaving us with around 40% at the end of the day. In my opinion, because the S23 doesn't do much to try and win this category, the points have to go to the S21. So the score is 2-1 and the S21 isn't done yet, but these last 2 rounds are arguably the most important of all. You've got the cameras and the computational upgrades of the S23, and then you've got performance in the end. But let's get to the cameras first. If you want the full breakdown of the S23 cameras, head over to the full review video and check that out. It's really good and hopefully it's helpful for you. But just check out the specs. The Samsung S23's 50 megapixel main camera bins down to 12 megapixels, making for some really nicely detailed images. They threw out the kind of useless 64 megapixel 1.1 optical zoom with 3 times hybrid zoom found on the S21, which, at least in my opinion, didn't really do very well. I was much more impressed with the 10 times digital zoom featured on the S23. And to give you the TLDR, keeping this as short as possible, the S23 does a lot of stuff really, really well. Your selfies will look arguably the same. You get a 12 megapixel camera versus the old 10 megapixel one on the S21, but the processor handles them a little bit better, although not enough to warrant an upgrade in my opinion. And your food and people photos, which look pretty good on the S21, will look just as good, if not maybe a little bit better on the S23. Is a little bit better really enough reason to upgrade though? I would say no. An improvement on the zoom sensor isn't a big enough jump to justify a whole new phone. I didn't notice enough of an upgrade between these 2 camera systems to warrant myself spending an extra, $800 USD just to make that jump. So it's a tie. Camera points go to the S21 5G. On to the championship round, folks. The S23 got ahead to an early lead, and the S21 battled back hard based on technicalities. But is its processor, or as I like to see it, the heart of the fighter, strong enough to keep up with the Goliath S23's powerful new Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy? This round, we put the Snapdragon 888 up against the younger, leaner, meaner computing machine, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy. And if you've watched our review on the Samsung Galaxy S23, you'll know just how important that chipset is to not only S23 lineup, but to phones in general this year. It's a chipset with enough horsepower to level the playing field and give gamers, power users, and anyone in between enough juice to get the job done. Our benchmarks proved this too, with the S23 performing well against the competition. But head-to-head, as you can see here, the scores do show a sizable gap. And the specs don't lie either. The Adreno 740 versus the 660, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy is overclocked and feels snappy as all hell. At 256 gigabytes UFS 4.0 versus 256 gigabytes 3.1 UFS storage, the Snapdragon 888 tries its best, but was knocked out in the 5th round. Overall, if you're feeling like it's time to upgrade, super. The Samsung S23 is the phone that you need to be looking at over almost anything else on the market at this price point. But with Samsung's obscenely long update commitment, this phone, and I mean it's obscene, they have the longest commitment update in the industry. This phone, the Samsung S21, which is currently running Android 13, will still have another couple of years of OS updates coming and many years of security updates ahead of it. So you could confidently stay with the phone that you've got. Those are the numbers that matter most and, to me, tell the most compelling story here. Samsung stands behind the S21 still, and as the saying goes, down but not out. It might have lost this battle, but the war isn't over until Samsung says so and stops supporting the S21. But what do you think? In an S21 versus S23, is it too soon to update your phone? How long have you usually kept your phone for? Let me know. For me, I'll likely be making the update to the Flip 5 when that one comes out, or the Pixel 8 when they inevitably come up with that one later this year. I just want to say it's been a pleasure. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. I'm Ryan from Authority Media. Keep smiling, be kind, and we'll see you on the next one.